That's Mike Adams, the Junkyard Dog Racing Team out of Seneca, South Carolina. That specially built GMC of his is on the pole here at Dover, Delaware. He's out front before the start, running a hot lap just to make sure that the racetrack is ready for competition. Before he got underway, Steve had a chance to talk with Mike.
Mike, your first pole ever, and it carries an extra pressure, and the officials are going to be looking to you via radio to tell them when the track is dry and safe.
Well, that's true. I understand they're going to let me run out front for about a half lap there when I think it's dry enough to go. And we'll see if we can get around that old racetrack without it slipping. But it's getting so late, I think if we get one more shower, we're going to be wiped out for the day.
Now, you told me you wanted to get back in the middle of the pack and run easy for a while. The chance of an abbreviated yet official race, is that going to change that strategy?
Well, we got different weather conditions now from what we had yesterday, and if it's any laying back done, it's not going to be too much because I don't think we got enough daylight left to get the full 200 miles in.
Well, let's hope the old Junkyard Dog can do it for you today.
Thanks, sir.
Well, Mike Adams has been running in big rig competition for a long time and has won some major events as an underdog. He, though, is not an underdog here today, Steve. That's a very, very well-built rig that he's got and could run out front for a long time.
Well, the starter indicating to the field one more lap to green. And a big question mark here, Brock, has to be the yellow truck on the outside of the front row, E.J. Utley. After all of those repairs, is it going to handle? Is the truck going to work for Utley? Remains to be seen.
Well, you can be sure that E.J.'s thinking exactly that right now as they do run around the high banks here at Dover. He's saying, boy, I hope that steering gear works, and I hope the chassis setup is right, because there is no room for mistakes, as we saw earlier. This is a narrow racetrack for these big rigs, and you get one sideways like E.J. did, and you're into the fence.
And yellow flags could play an important role in this race, Brock, because if there's too many of them, Mike Adams may indeed be right. There's not enough daylight to run the full 200 miles.
Right now, their thoughts are on the green flag, and as Utley and Adams come down the front straightaway, they'll be watching. There's the starter. Will he throw the switch? The lineup looks good. We're green, Steve.
The crowd is on their feet, and we've got a start to the big rig 200. The red truck number 97 of Mike Adams on the pole moves out and takes the early lead. And already falling back, Brock, is E.J. Utley clear back into the third spot now.
It looks like the truck just didn't run it very well. The handling seemed all right, but there was no power as E.J. Utley falls back. Mike Adams takes the lead, and in second place, we've got Charlie Baker in that big blue Kenworth. Third place, Bill Johnson in that old 1946 Corvette. A really interesting truck, Steve.
Indeed it is. In fact, Johnson's handle is a North Carolina Plowboy. That's the third truck you see go through your picture there. Those trucks were produced in North Carolina, and ceased production right after World War II. A real favorite with all the Carolina truck drivers.
A good race for second right now as Bill Johnson and Charlie Baker fight it out as this man, Mike Adams, drives out front of that number 97 GMC Special as he's pulled out to about a 10-truck lead here, and that's plenty on a mile track on the opening laps. But we could see Mike fall back. He's a very heady race driver. He usually lets somebody else set the pace and then be there at the end.
Look at this race for second spot. They are side by side. The Corvette of Bill Johnson and Charlie Baker's Kenworth, neck and neck, both setting sail after Mike Adams.
Well, Baker and Johnson both run specially modified trucks. They are two of the best in this business as we watch Mike Adams continue to set the pace. But it could be that Baker and Johnson are going to have a go at him.
Already lapping some slower traffic. There's the leader, number 97, and closing up within a truck length and challenging now for the lead is the Corvette of Bill Johnson.
And it could be that he's going to dive underneath Mike Adams as they come down the front straightaway. No, Adams holds him off, but it could be inevitable. Mike Adams may, as we said earlier, just fall back and let Johnson set the pace in the early stages of this race. Mike is a very disciplined driver. He'll go out there, set a specific lap time, and run it all day long, make his pit stops in very orderly fashion, and won't be concerned if somebody else drives by him. As we watch Bill Johnson now try to get underneath Mike, and I'm sure Mike will probably let him by if it comes to that. Imagine, Steve, those things weigh 7 tons apiece, and they're running out there fender to fender.
Well, Brock, when this kind of racing was first conceived a few years ago, there was a lot of critics just for that reason. They said, will the crash walls even hold these trucks? What's going to happen if one gets upside down or has some difficulties? And they've really proven all the critics wrong. To this date, no one has been seriously injured in one of these trucks. And look at this. Bill Johnson comes by on the inside. As you predicted, Mike Adams made no move to try to block him.
Mike Adams is just going to hang on. You know that he says, well, go ahead, Bill, run her out there with that old Corvette, but I'm going to be there at the end. If they don't have mechanical problems, both these guys should be contenders all the way through this 200 miles. But right now, Bill Johnson is just opening out. He's got himself about a 10-truck lead and continues to just move away. Like most of these guys, Bill is a professional trucker when he's not racing, but more and more his activities have been focused on this kind of competition.
Brock, here is the pit board of E.J. Utley, and it looks like they're bringing the yellow truck in. Indeed they are. That tired crew brings in number 5. It was immediately obvious to everybody that things are not right as he fell back to 5th position within a couple of laps. So E.J. in the pits, and what can you do to a monster like this, Brock? It's not exactly like a drag car where you can change engines between rounds, or a NASCAR car where you can get in and do an awful lot of pit maintenance.
Well, I think he's got some engine problems. We saw an awful lot of smoke coming from the engine when he got underway. That implied some injector problems, and they may be able to fix that injector and get him back underway. I don't think it's handling. They haven't changed any tires, so it may be that they got the suspension repaired, but it could be the engine that's giving E.J. problems right now as we watch Bill Johnson continue to lead.
Well, the North Carolina plowboy is plowing his way through the competition here in the early laps of the Big Rig 200. You know, the staple item, Brock, you will find down on the pit wall, everybody has a spare right front tire because they know they're going to need them. Still in the pit area, E.J. Utley, and it appears that they are working on the fuel system, Brock, as you said.
And here comes Richard Murtaugh into the pits in his Diamond Rio, and he's got a bunch of white smoke coming out of that exhaust stack. That implies some engine problems for him.
And Brock, if you saw this kind of smoke coming out of a race car, you'd know there was a blown engine. But with these big rigs, the diesel engines, the turbochargers, it's kind of like tractor pulling. Sometimes the more smoke, the more power. You just can't tell anything by smoke out of the stacks on these. At least I can.
And here's one of the real veterans in big rig racing. That's Ken Farmer. He is in the pits with his GMC. He's got some problems. Probably remember Kenny, if you all saw Smoking the Bandit 2, his was the truck that had that giant crash at the opening scenes of that movie. Kenny Farmer walked away from that one, and right now he may be getting back underway. Yes, he is. But way back in 11th place here at Dover, fell back out of the competition as we watch the crew still working on E.J. Utley's rig.
Well, 97, Mike Adams, who started on the pole, is just a couple of truck lengths behind Bill Johnson, the leader. But look, right behind the red truck comes Jeff Salmon in number 93, the GMC truck, and he's going to be a contender here for that second spot that Mike Adams currently holds. And this is only Jeff Salmon's 3rd start in big rig truck racing, the first time he's ever even seen a high banked oval. He's an aggressive young man out there.
Oh, he sure is, Steve, as he squeezes under Mike Adams coming off a turn 2 and takes the number 2 spot in the Big Rig 200 here at Dover. He may, in fact, have his eyes on Bill Johnson, who's only a couple of truck lengths up front.
Well, that's a 1975 GMC that Salmon is driving, Brock, with the 8V92 Detroit engine. Now, those are twin turbochargers, so you're talking a little over 1,000 horsepower.
He's got the wick turned up on that old 93 right now, as he's got Bill Johnson in his sights. It could be that he'll try to put the same kind of move on Johnson down low to get underneath him, but Johnson, of course, is running low as well. They both found that low groove to be the fast way around here at Dover, as we see Bill Johnson, that old number 11 Corvette, continue to lead. But Jeff Salmon, right there in 2nd place, Raleigh, North Carolina, runs his own trucking company, a general commodity trucker like a lot of these fellas, just takes a break every once in a while to come out here and put the hammer down.
Now, that Corvette may be nearing its 40th birthday, but under the hood of the blue truck lays a late model 475 Cummins engine. Bill Johnson in the Corvette leads it. Jeff Salmon putting the pressure on. Mike Adams, who started on the pole, has dropped back to 3rd.
So it's been all downhill for E.J. Utley here at Dover Downs. First, a big practice crash, and then after starting on the outside pole, into the pits.
So a very, very long and costly pit stop for E.J. Utley. The crew finally waving him back out onto the Monster Mile. We'll see if we can get one of his pit guys to tell us exactly what was going on. What was wrong with the truck there?
Turbo blowed off. Hose blowed off.
Oh, no.
Get the hose blowed off.
When I got here yesterday, cocked it around and stretched it on that side, and the hose not long enough.
So EJ's still trying to recover from the damage done in qualifying yesterday.
Well, a tough break for E.J. Utley as we watch these two men, Johnson and Salmon, going at it for the lead. Jeff Salmon now challenging Bill Johnson right up on the bumper of that old Corvette. Salmon, the only third time in a racing truck, and look at him drive, Steve.
He does have a racing background, though, Brock. He has driven sports cars and late model stock cars, but it's got to be a totally different feeling sitting up high with a diesel for power. And earlier, Brock had a chance to take a look at the kind of engine that provides enough muscle to move 14,000 pounds, 100 miles an hour.
You know, when we think about racing engines, we think about power plants that are light and small and terribly efficient. Lots of power. Very expensive. Well, this is very expensive, and it's very powerful, but it sure ain't small. In fact, this engine weighs about 2,900 pounds, almost 3/4 as much as a Grand National stock car all by itself, and lots more than a AA fuel dragster. It's an incredible piece of machinery, though. It's designed to run for practically years at a time without an overhaul, whereas, say, with a AA fuel car, it gets overhauled after every 5-second run. This machine, all 934 cubic inches of it, 400 horsepower, 2,900 pounds of weight, will propel a racing truck around a track at over 100 miles an hour for practically a lifetime. In fact, some of the guys out here say that they haven't really checked their engines in a year other than to change the oil and have a look at the bearings. So if you get one of these things running right, you can practically count on it being a lifetime possession with no problems. Maybe 200,000 miles between overhauls, even at racing speeds.
And you don't have to worry about spark plugs in one of these babies either. You know, Brock, they may make about 400 horsepower in the stock configuration, but by the time guys like Bill Johnson, our leader here, get through tweaking with them and fooling with the turbochargers, it's upwards of 1,000.
Yep, you just turn off the wick on the old boost of the turbocharger and get almost unlimited power. Look at this. Jeff Salmon underneath Bill Johnson to take the lead here at Dover. What a pass as they come off the back straightaway and down into turn number 3. Jeff Salmon takes the lead.
But I wonder, though, Brock, if Johnson isn't saying, okay, Jeff, I'll let you lead it for a while. Let's see what you've got.
Well, that's entirely possible, Steve, although I wonder, it may be that Salmon just got a wheel underneath Johnson and moved out front. These guys don't really muscle each other all that hard with these 7-ton rigs like you might see in a Sprinter or a late model stock car. They give each other a lot of racing room because I'll tell you what, you lock a couple of these babies up and bounce them off the fence and you've got some serious problems.
And also some serious expense to try to get them repaired, Brock. These are very expensive racing machines, worth every bit as much as a lot of the race cars we see.
Well, we've answered one question, Steve. I think that Salmon just is faster at this particular point. He's moved way out front. As we look at Richard Craig in that number 1 Ford, he's an interesting story.
And one of the top drivers in big rig competition. Everyone was wondering yesterday where Richard Craig was. He wasn't here for practice or qualifying, but he was here this morning, first truck out at the gate. I asked him what happened. Knowledgeable truck racing fans are going to be surprised to find Richard Craig's truck number 1 clear at the back of the pack. And Richard, your problems actually started even before you got to Dover Downs.
Yeah, I did. On our way out, we had some trouble with our tow vehicle. They had a little accident on the highway and threw us a little behind schedule, and we didn't get here in time to qualify. So we have to start on the tail and make our way through the pack.
At least they're going to let you compete.
Yeah, we got a brand new engine in there from diesel injection at Pittsburgh, and we're dying to try it out, and starting on the tail will be a good test for it.
Okay, now they're making you add some weight to your truck or something?
Yeah, we got a minimum weight rule, and we've done some changes on the truck the past 2 weeks, and we got a little underweight, so we're having to add a little weight to it to bring her up to par.
Well, that's a special racing truck that Richard Craig has right there, that number 1 Ford 9000 conventional. He's moved it all the way up to 7th place after starting scratch, but he's got a way to go to catch this pair. That is Jeff Salmon out front, right behind him, Bill Johnson in that Corvette, and he, while giving up first place, doesn't seem to be falling back a bit, Steve.
And it'll be interesting to see how long Johnson lets Salmon run out there in front, because he may well have the horsepower to close up any time he feels like it. Now, back in the pits again is poor old E.J. Utley. This has just not been a good day or weekend for the man in the yellow Mac.
Well, you still see the scars on that truck, that left front fender torn away in that practice crash. And even now, as EJ gets underway, you've got to feel that the crew is very discouraged. They've just had a hard weekend. They're tired. They've been tearing that truck apart, putting it back together all weekend.
Well, Ken Farmer has spent a good deal of time in the pits here in the early going. He's headed back out onto this mile circuit after his second stop. Brock, we got a race shaping up here between two of the real heroes in truck racing. That is number 39, Charlie Baker and his Kenworth, and number 2, Doyle Montgomery. They're battling for the 5th spot, but not that far off the lead truck either.
They sure aren't. They started a bit back, kind of surprising for a couple of pros like this. They've been in it from the beginning, Montgomery and Baker, and they run for a pair of teams that put about the best prepared trucks that you'll find in this kind of competition on the racetrack. So let's not forget them, as they could pose a serious threat to the leader here, Jeff Salmon, as he continues to dominate at Dover. So as things settle down, let's go out to Ontario, California, and Ed Bruce.
Thanks, Brock. I'm sitting inside the cab of a brand new over-the-road rig belonging to Bruce Riley from Bridgeport, Michigan. It's about a month old, and he's just gotten out on the road with it. It's got all the comforts of home except Mama. It's got a television. It's got bunk beds for a co-driver. It's got central air and heat, clothes closets, a refrigerator, tape deck, all the comforts of home. But you know, as much easier as it is traveling over the road these days as it was, say, 10 or 15 years ago, with all this luxury, it's necessary. Bruce has a 5-year note of $1,500 a month on this new truck, and to pay for it, he expects to spend 100 to 150,000 miles a year on the road.
And a lot of these truckers here at Dover today, Ed, are in that exact same business, and they're up against that same over-the-road challenge. But here they're enjoying a busman or a truckman's holiday. And Brock, the good thing about truck racing for guys like Salmon and Johnson, who are running 1 and 2, is they don't have to shift gears.
No, they just stick it up into one of those 13 speeds that they got in one of these big rigs and let her hang on. Although some of the guys are shifting in and out of an overdrive so that they will use a different gear coming off the corners. But for the most part, it's really a one-gear racetrack here at Dover.
Well, Bill Johnson apparently has selected the right gear because he's got around Salmon and has retaken the lead. And we have got a yellow flag out now, Brock, as the field is starting to slow here at Dover. Apparently some debris out on the circuit has brought out the yellow. Bill Johnson leads it. Jeff Salmon in second. Mike Adams, who started on the pole, is now back in third. We're still under caution here at the Big Rig 200, Dover Downs, Dover, Delaware. The yellow flag was brought out because of an exploding right front tire on truck number 71, driven by Robert Piper. Now, that right front tire is the weak link in all of these trucks. Brock took a look at the problem.
If there's an Achilles heel in a racing truck, it's here in the right front corner, because as we run around a counterclockwise racetrack, they're all left-hand turns. And as the truck pitches into the corner, the weight rides forward onto the right front tire. We see a lot of blowouts of the right front tires because the tires simply can't stand the heat and the pressure of all that racing action. So what's done is they've shaved the tire tread down to reduce the temperatures that build up on a heavy layer of rubber around the tire. So these tires are cut down, shaved down to reduce the heat buildup. Also, you'll notice that the axle has been cut here. It's been cut to give an adjustment in camber so that the right wheel is tilted outward to give it a better surface reaction to the racetrack. It lies on the racetrack in a more flat angle. Also, we have double shock absorbers so that the shock absorbing action, which is very, very heavy on a racetrack, will work better and stronger, more efficiently with a pair rather than one. The springs double the thickness because, again, that giant weight transfer as the truck pitches forward into a left-hand corner, all transfers forward onto the right front, and it needs the more springing action. So we've got a lot of compensations made in the trucks. They seem to be tilted an awful lot to the left. The right side seems to be much higher than the left. You'll notice that, but that's because the weight transfer as they go into the corners pitches all that weight to the right side, and we want to compensate as much for that. And that's why these trucks look a little oddly angled at the beginning of a race, but as it goes on, the race goes on, you'll see that things will level out, and these adjustments will definitely work.
And Brock, the truck you use for that explanation is the first to completely shred a right front tire. There's nothing left of that tire off of Robert Piper's number 71. And also in the pit area is number 1, Richard Craig. You remember that's the truck that had to start at the very back, but he's in for a left front tire change. In fact, this is the second tire that's gone on, the right front first and now the left front.
Well, you can see that is a specially built racing truck. Notice how low and compact it is. As Richard Craig gets underway, he is down 2 laps, now back in 12th place, but not giving up as he accelerates out of the pits here at Dover to get back underway. That's a tough break for Craig, but you can be sure he'll be back into it as hard as he can go as he accelerates down the pits here at Dover. Here comes Buddy Albertson. He's been black flagged, that big Peterbilt of his. Something is the matter. The official said, come on in, we want to have a talk with you. That's one of the stock division trucks, Buddy Albertson. They call him the Catman. That's his CB handle. He runs that truck up and down I-95 on the East Coast when he's not racing. As he gets underway, Steve is down with his crew to find out the reason for that black flag.
That was the quickest big rig stop in history. What was that all about?
We put a man out there in the wall, and they black flagged us for a penalty.
Oh, I better get out of here. I might cause you one, too.
No, that's all right. We got our under control.
Rules are rules.
Rules is rules.
Rules are rules, as knows this man, Charlie Baker. He's also been black flagged. He was up in 5th place. One of the real pros in this business out of New Oxford, Pennsylvania, been racing a long time, and you got to know that Charlie is plenty displeased. Earlier, before the start of the race, Steve had a chance to talk with Charlie.
Charlie Baker was there at the first ever big rig truck race back in June of 1979 in Atlanta, Georgia. In fact, he was second in that race, and the guy that won it is the pole sitter here this weekend, Mike Adams. Charlie, did you ever think this would evolve into a full-fledged motorsport?
No, I really didn't. You know, of course, they started out with these truck drags and so forth, and we saw this ad. In fact, it was in a magazine. They were going to run this circle race down there. It was a one-time deal, one of a kind, and we decided to get in on it. And next thing you know, that was in June, and Mike, he started 7th, and that one, I believe I started 8th, and he finished 1st, and I finished 2nd. And next thing you know, along around September of the same year, they decided to do it again in Ontario, California. So we went out there, and we finished 5th in that one. But that winter, we started getting material through the mail from the sanctioning body that they were going to run like 4 more races the following year, and they were going to let you build trucks, and specifically to race with. It didn't have to be over-the-road trucks. You could drop the motors and move them back and everything. So we thought, well, we'll go along with it too. So we've been at it ever since with everybody else.
Well, they got them all back down here under caution as we see Bill Johnson, that beautiful old Corvette, leading the field. Just behind him, Jeff Salmon in that number 93, as they get ready once more to run here at Dover. The green is out, Steve.
And all of these drivers now upshifting those 13-speed transmissions, getting back into the racing cog. And look at Bill Johnson in the ancient old Corvette. He's got about a 5-truck length lead over Jeff Salmon in the 2nd spot. And Mike Adams running 3rd as he has most of this big rig 200 here in Dover, Delaware.
So Bill Johnson continues to lead it in that beautiful blue and gold Corvette. Started way back in 1946, a relic of a truck with a brand new motor, as Jeff Salmon continues to chase him here on the Monster Mile at Dover, Delaware. More Big Rig 200 racing coming up.
Bill Johnson in the blue number 11 truck continues to lead the Big Rig 200 here at Dover Downs in Dover, Delaware. I'm Steve Evans, along with Brock Yates and our pal Ed Bruce, who's out in California, and from time to time will be bringing us more on the trucking industry in general. And Brock's strategy is going to start to play an important role here, because the chance of that right front tire going a full 200 miles is very, very unlikely. At some point, these crews have to decide when to bring the driver in.
Right, Steve. They got plenty of fuel on board. That's no problem. They won't have to take on any of that. But that right front, that is a problem. It is going to have to be changed, at least probably going to have to be changed. And whether or not these guys stop under green or wait for a caution, so far we haven't had a whole lot of cautions. And you got to know that Johnson and Salmon and all the rest of the guys up front are going to say, when do I go in? Is that right front going to last for me? Do I back it down a little bit and try to go without a stop? Or do I wait for a caution? A lot of questions to be answered here. Look at this.
We have got Jeff Salmon diving down on the inside and takes the lead away from Bill Johnson. And Brock, this could be just what we were talking about. Maybe Johnson's having some tire problems.
Well, it's possible. He's been running a real low groove all day long. He got a little bit high, and that gave Jeff Salmon the opportunity to dive underneath. So you wonder. And right now, Salmon has moved out to about, maybe 4 or 5 truck length lead on on Bill Johnson, and that may imply some problems.
You know, like most racing vehicles these days, these are radio equipped as they communicate with their crews. But befitting the trucking condition, a lot of the radios are CBs, which means somebody going down the road out here in front of Dover Downs could be talking to Jeff Sullivan.
Well, let's hope they're giving them the right signals, because there is Mike Adams back there in third place. Remember what we said about him earlier, one of the coolest heads in this business. I saw him win a race down in Atlanta, Georgia with an outclassed truck. He came in there, just ran steadily all day long and won it. And right now, Mike is just sitting there in third place. He's hoping that these guys are going to run into trouble, and there is some trouble for Bill Johnson, Steve.
Bill Johnson, who had just been passed by Jeff Sullivan, put him back in the second spot, and now his problems are compounded as he comes into the pits. Now, the right front tire is not shredded like we saw on an earlier vehicle, but it is going to be changed. And as you said, Brock, this is quite an undertaking. It takes a lot of muscle to get that thing jacked up and that wheel and tire off.
It sure does, and it's also being done under green, which means that Simon and the other guys out front are just running away from Bill Johnson, and it's got to be a frustrating thing for him. All he can do is hope that the other leaders encounter the same kind of problems, which is going to even things out. But right now, Bill Johnson is in real trouble.
And, Brock, I am just over the pit wall out of their way where I can get a close-up look at this tire change. As you can see, the worn-out rubber has already been removed, and they're bolting on a new one.
Right now, though, it's all Jeff Salmon. But look at this. Mike Adams has moved up to within striking distance. He's only a few truck lengths back from Salmon, and it could be that Salmon is encountering troubles as well. So we got Jeff Salmon leading it, Mike Adams in second place in that number 97 Junkyard Dog.
Well, Mike Adams told me before the race that he really didn't want to run out front in the early going, but now he was challenging on the inside. The red number 97, who started on the pole, is now moving up and trying to get around Jeff Sullivan in 93. He's got him. We have a new leader, red number 97, Mike Adams.
Good job by Mike Adams. Made a beautiful pass. Got underneath, as we've seen all day. That's been the way to pass here at Dover. Kind of squeeze underneath and just pull out front. And now Mike Adams has got himself a fairly substantial lead. The question is right now, though, is Jeff Salmon, does he have tire problems? Is he going to have to come in just like his arch rival Bill Johnson had to? Did they run too hard? Is Mike Adams going to have to stop, or is that consistent running that he is so well known for going to pay off for him?
And Bill Johnson, Brock, I'm sure, was hoping to get a yellow flag to come in and pit under yellow, but he also did not want to push that tire to the explosion point.
Right, Steve, as we saw happen earlier on Robert Pfeiffer's truck, they don't just blow him here, as you say, they explode him. As in the meantime, we watch the finishing touches being put on that right front tire of Bill Johnson's Corvette. He'll be ready to get underway in just a few seconds. Notice that full roll cage on the Corvette. The entire cab is encased in a roll cage, which makes that a particularly safe vehicle. So Bill Johnson falling all the way back from the lead into 9th place because of that tire problem. Let's check with Steve in Johnson's pit.
Now you can see the kind of abuse that these tires take, and I'm not going to touch it because the tire temperature is probably a couple of 100 degrees. And Richard, it seems to me maybe you need some slick tires.
Slicker tires, there's too much rubber, they heat up too quick.
So the tire has been put on the front of Bill Johnson's truck, and he's back out there, but look at this one, it is shredded. You wonder now, well, now you understand why you see so much rubber alongside the interstates.
Well, that one's probably headed for the old recap shop as we watch Mike Adams, the number 97 Junkyard Dog, Seneca, South Carolina, lead it here at Dover. Jeff Salmon falling back just a little bit back there in second place after leading it.
But there's still a whole bunch of trucks that are on the same lap with that leader, Brock, and any one of them on just this mile circuit could still pull this off before the day is done. Including truck number 2, currently riding in the 3rd spot, driven by a veteran of this kind of racing, Doyle Montgomery. Remember the success Mike Adams had coming from that 3rd spot. Montgomery might do as well.
Well, right now, it's a race between a pair of GMCs and 3 Kenworths in the top 5 places here at the Big Rig 200 in Dover Downs. I'm Brock Yates along with Steve Evans. Our pal Ed Bruce out in Ontario, California, the big truck stop. Mike Adams, Jeff Salmon in Jimmy's, Doyle Montgomery up there in 3rd place in that beautiful number 2 Kenworth of his. It's been a race of some strategy here, Steve, so far as the tire wear is concerned. Jeff Salmon led it for a while. Mike Adams started on the pole. He led it for a while, fell back to third, and then moved back up into first place. And we've had, of course, the bad luck of Bill Johnson with his tire failure after leading it, and he's fallen back.
And here we see a pass on the inside by big number 40. That is Luther Burton. Luther is running in the 5th spot. He's passing Jeff Salmon, who's running 2nd. But remember, Luther is a lap down. So we have 4 trucks on the lead lap, the 5th truck a lap down.
Well, it could be that Salmon is slowing up a little bit. You notice that he's fallen back considerably from Mike Adams now in the lead as we watch Adams go into turn number 1. Notice he's riding pretty high on the high banks here at Dover as he runs through the corners. That implies a good handling truck for Mike Adams, and he has got himself no real problems at this particular moment other than perhaps that tire wear situation that would seem to haunt all these guys.
And even with the Grand National stock cars we've seen here before at Dover, Brock, it seems as the race progresses, that higher line becomes a little better place to be. More rubber on the racetrack, possibly.
Lots of traffic, though, for Mike Adams as he threads his way through some of the slower competition. Back there in 3rd place, Doyle Montgomery, always a factor in these races, and it could be that Montgomery is just starting to find his pace. That big Kenworth at Doyle's is a pretty classic example of how one of these special racing rigs is set up. Earlier, Steve had a chance to go over that truck with an eye to its safety components.
At over 130 miles an hour and 14,000 pounds of racing truck, there is no such thing as too much safety. Check out the roll bar here in number 2, Doyle Montgomery's truck. Tube upon tube, pipe upon pipe, all heavily wrapped and padded. It exceeds anything you'd find even in a NASCAR Grand National car. Doyle has a racing-style seat to support his back, the 5-point shoulder harness and seat belt. Even the steering wheel is heavily padded. And riding shotgun, should he get a little thirsty, he has a little refreshment center. Right after we shot that safety piece, Brock, I had a chance to talk to Doyle about his strategy. And he had no intentions of trying to lead this race except for maybe the last few laps. I think he's very comfortable running in 3rd, maybe doing better at this point than he had hoped.
Oh, just kind of sitting there as we watch him come down the front straightaway, threading his way through traffic. A lot of traffic on a mile racetrack for these big rigs. 28 of them started. We've got a few of them on the sidelines, but for the most part, still running. So you never really get free of traffic as we watch Mike Adams still lead it down into turn number 1, riding that high groove as he has all afternoon. And the main reason so many of them are still out there on the racetrack, Brock, is that inherent reliability of these double tough diesel engines. Boy, they just keep on running all day long. You just put the boost in at the levels that you want them, which is probably somewhere between 700, 800 horsepower in a race-ready configuration as we watch Jimmy Paget riding in 4th place. Like a lot of these guys, Jimmy's had some prior racing experience. He's run drag cars, Camaros specifically, for a number of years before getting into the big rigs. We also have seen Charlie Baker, Luther Burton, and some other fellows run a lot of stock car racing. So that kind of racecraft that you develop may not exactly pay off for running a 7-ton truck, but racing is racing, and if you got the kind of poise to run in stock cars, that'll sure pay off, or help you at least in running one of these monsters.
You remember the old Johnny Cash song, One Piece at a Time? Well, that's kind of how Mike Adams built this truck that's currently in the lead. There's body parts, mechanical parts off of trucks from 1969 through up to 1972.
Well, that is, in fact, a junkyard dog. Mike does, for a real living, haul junk cars down in South Carolina, and he did put that thing together and has incidentally done a beautiful job with it. As I said earlier, I saw him show up a number of years ago at a race in Atlanta. It was really a truck that looked like it was right out of a junkyard. But not this GMC of Mike's here at Dover. That is a beautifully built truck, good enough to hold off a whole bunch of strong-running Kenworths and Jimmys back in the field. We're going to be back at Dover to watch Mike Adams fight it out.
Number 93 here at the Big Rig 200. I'm Steve Evans along with Brock Yates, and we'll be talking from time to time with our buddy Ed Bruce, who's out at one of the biggest truck stops in the world in Ontario, California. So Mike Adams, Brock, 44 years old, a father of 2 from South Carolina, so far enjoying this race, and we have just passed the halfway mark.
Right, Steve. In fact, he never has been farther back than 3rd. Started on the pole, fell back there, and then moved back up into the lead. But right now, he's got his hands full because young Jeff Salmon is putting the pressure on him as we see the field come down the front straightaway.
And Jeff has got a lot of racing experience, as we pointed out earlier, and he's using it right now. Truck racing at one time, Brock, was all kind of owner-operator. Salmon is a hired driver. The truck is owned by Buckhorn, and he just figured Jeff was the best boy he could put behind the wheel.
Well, it's paying off for him right now, because you see Jeff Salmon come down the back chute and drive underneath Mike Adams to retake the lead. Got a little traffic in front of him, but not enough to slow him up. So a new leader, Jeff Salmon, once more. He was out front a little earlier, and now he's back in the lead here at Dover.
In fact, Brock, any truck that's on the same lap with the leader, Jeff Salmon, still has a chance of winning this race. In fact, a lot of people predicted that because of the high banks and these guys' inexperience with this kind of racing, that it wouldn't be all that competitive. Boy, were they wrong.
They were also wrong when they said there were going to be a lot of crashes. These guys have taken to these high banks beautifully. A very safe race, a quick race, and a race that has really boiled down to a contest between these two guys, Jeff Salmon and Mike Adams. They've been at each other all day long.
And Brock, we have got a caution flag being displayed to the field right now. So everybody downshifting, and apparently this is why. Number 7, Ken Farmer, his Chevy truck that has been in and out of the pits, has apparently finally suffered some serious internal engine problems, because he is down low on the apron. Just a little puff of smoke here and there, indicating that the engine not running properly at all.
And here's a fella that has been in all day long, outside pole starter, E.J. Utley, and they've got the hood up on that big truck one more time.
And with the yellow flag out and E.J. Utley in the pit area, let's go out to Southern California again and Ed Bruce.
Thanks, Steve. We're standing here outside one of the biggest truck stops in the country on a windy day right outside of Los Angeles, California. This is Ontario, California. We're at Union 76 truck stop at I-10 and 15, and I have found a couple of truck drivers to talk to. This is Lester and Lily Lanning, and they're from Waynesville,
North Carolina.
North Carolina. What are you doing way out here?
Oh, just trucking around, looking at the country and trying to make a buck.
You know, it's kind of funny. I've come 2,500 miles across the country to do this show and run into what amounts to almost neighbors. I'm from Tennessee. Lily, you drive with Lester, right?
Yes.
How long you been driving?
6 years.
Why did you decide to do this?
Well, I didn't want to stay at home by myself, so I decided to go to the road and meet all the different people.
And you heard about how them truck drivers are when they're out on the road with them little truck stop waitresses, too. Lester, how long you been driving?
9 years.
Well, you started kind of late, didn't you?
Yeah, well, not really. I'm young yet.
What made you decide to start driving a truck?
Well, kind of got out of a job over there in North Carolina, and that, well, I'd been fooling around a little bit with trucks and thought that might be a pretty good way to go.
Now, you and Lily own your own rig, right? And drive for, how do you work that? How does that work? You drive for a company, but you own your own rig.
We own our own rig and got it leased to a company in out of North Carolina. They furnish freight and we furnish the truck.
Appreciate y'all talking to us, and have a good, safe trip back home. I've enjoyed it. We're going back to some more of the Big Rig 200.
And just in time, too, Ed, because it looks like the green flag will be out the next time they cross the start-finish line. Coming out of turn number 4 with Jeff Salmon leading the pack. The green is out. But look, down underneath Salmon comes number 97, Mike Adams. Can he get the lead? Yes, he can. The new leader, Mike Adams. Jeff Salmon, he's coming back, too.
Wow, what a race, side by side through turn 1 and 2 here at Dover. Mike Adams got a little bit of a jump on that green, but not enough, it appears, to hold off Jeff Salmon, who got it coming off at 2. But now Mike Adams reestablishes it. Is he going to hold on? That's the question, Steve.
These trucks are set up beautifully, Brock, and that's why they're not having the front tire problems that others are encountering. They've got the right spring, the right shock, the right offset in that axle. They're working beautifully.
Well, right now, these trucks of Adams and Salmon are the class of the field, but that's not the case with everybody. Steve Evans is down in the pit area with a truck that's having trouble.
Luther Burton in truck number 40, even though he's a lap down, is still occupying 5th place, and that pays a lot of prize money. The problem right now is the turbocharger is loose, and it won't stay tight to the manifold, and they're losing a lot of boost. The crew trying to fix it.
Well, a bumpy ride here at Dover is starting to take its toll with vibration, tire wear, and one thing another, as Luther Burton loses a lot of time in the pit area against his arch rivals, these two guys. Mike Adams, number 97, Junkyard Dog, now being challenged once again by Jeff Salmon. as he dives underneath. A pair of GMCs leading the race here, Steve.
And there's no pacing yourself now, not when they're in this kind of hand-to-hand combat, Brock, just changing that lead back and forth. Everybody, as they say in trucking, has got the pedal to the metal, the hammer down.
Well, you're not going to see these guys run quite as close as you might see in a Grand National race here at Dover, but I'll tell you what, with 14,000-pound vehicles, they run mighty close. Not exactly door handle to door handle, but plenty close indeed.
I wouldn't be surprised to see them rub fenders together if it was the last lap, considering this is a $60,000 purse.
It's happened before as we watch Luther Burton, his crew finally buttoning up that big Kenworth. He's going to stuff it into gear and underway. Fortunately for him, that stop didn't cost him 5th place. He's still up among the leaders, Steve.
And speaking of the leaders, look at this. Down on the inside is Jeff Salmon in the blue truck. Salmon is going to try to stick that 5th wheel right in front of Mike Adams. He does it. These two are just warring out here.
As Jeff Salmon takes it over from Mike Adams down low. Mike, it looked as if got a little bit high, but now Mike has started to fall way, way back. You got to wonder whether or not it's engine problems, perhaps a tire going down on him, but nonetheless, it's this young man, Jeff Salmon, only his 3rd race in the big rig leagues, is now out in front and running strong. So the question right now is, Mike Adams in trouble? Well, we know that E.J. Utley's in trouble. That's his crew finally packing it up. They're going to head for home after a weekend of troubles. Steve is with E.J.
E.J., you gave it all you had, including a night's sleep.
Yes, we sure tried, but we had some damage that happened in the wreck, and we didn't find it till the race started, and it was too late then.
What kind of damage?
Well, the aftercooler in front of the radiator had been dislocated in the accident by about 1 inch, and it was just something that you couldn't see, and, well, I guess maybe if you'd had enough time, you might have been.
Well, our congratulations to you and your super crew for an incredible effort.
Thank you very much. Look forward to seeing you again soon.
Us too.
Great try, E.J. We hope to see you again real soon as we watch Mike Adams, the junkyard dog. It looks as if he's through for the afternoon. A tough break for the man who started on the pole here at Dover Downs.
Under ominous skies, the Big Rig 200 truck race continues here at Dover Downs in Dover, Delaware. Jeff Salmon leads it in truck number 93, but an interesting new player. Doyle Montgomery, truck number 2, is closing in on Salmon. You'll remember when Mike Adams went out of the race, Montgomery inherited that 2nd spot. I'm Steve Evans along with Brock Yates and Ed Bruce out in California, and we have got another battle for the lead, Brock.
We sure do. That's Breakdown Charlie in the Flying Deuce Kenworth right behind Jeff Salmon. He owns that truck out of Westchester, Ohio, proves it himself, and boy, he runs hard. It could be that Jeff Salmon's got his hands full with Doyle Montgomery.
Well, Breakdown Charlie is Doyle Montgomery's CV handle, but there's no breakdown for him right now. He is in the lead for the first time today, driving right around Jeff Salmon.
Well, his crew chief, Ron Ensenweiler's got that big Kenworth just running like a champ. In fact, this is kind of a family operation. Doyle's wife, Dottie's here, and his son, Jeff, also works on the pit crew. So they got a whole big operation down here from Westchester, Ohio, and they got to be happy the way that Flying Deuce is running right now. Well, up until this point, of course, it's been Jeff Salmon and Mike Adams who have dominated this race. But, of course, when Mike Adams retired, it changed the complexion of the whole operation. Poor Mike. He just started beautifully today, ran all day long up among the leaders after beginning the race on the pole, but right now it's over for him. He coasted into the pits, kind of a surprise after Jeff Salmon went by him, and he just eased to a stop and down into the Dover Downs pit area in the infield. A tough break for Mike Adams. Steve Evans has rounded up the former leader.
What went wrong?
Well, it jumped out of gear going in number 1 corner out there and quit pulling. I tried to put it back gear and it wasn't pulling any of them. Looking at the truck right now, it's got oil all over. It looks like it might have broke a crankshaft going in right behind the flywheel.
That's expensive.
Yes, it is.
Well, the truckers have done a terrific job here at Dover. Is the track a little harder maybe on tires than you expected? We've seen a lot of tire problems.
Well, of course, we expected a lot of tire problems here during the day, but if it hadn't been for this overcast and this cool weather, why, you'd have seen a whole lot more tire trouble. We weren't even running hard at all out there, except when we were trying to catch back up, and we did a right front tire in. After we changed and went back out, it never did handle just right.
Well, thanks for an exciting show.
Thank you.
Well, a tough break for Mike Adams, and he's finished for the day. But I'll tell you what, the racing sure isn't finished out there. These guys have just been going at it all afternoon. Nobody has been able to get any kind of a clear-cut advantage. Right now, Doyle Montgomery's got himself a little bit of a lead over Jeff Salmon, but if the pattern stays the way it's been, he won't get a whole lot out front either, Steve.
No, in fact, I don't think he'll get out any further than he absolutely has to maintain some kind of control here, Brock, mainly due to the wear on those tires, specifically the right front. You heard Mike Adams say once he had to change one, it was just never the same. And it seems like that if we get too aggressive a leader, he suddenly has problems, as Adams did.
Well, I guess that's what makes big rig truck racing so interesting, because it is so competitive, and there are a lot of components involved in driving one of these things and setting the chassis up, as opposed to just getting out there and standing on the gas. Or in this particular case, standing on the diesel fuel.
Well, I tell you, there's very little, if any, diesel smoke coming out of the twin chrome stacks of Doyle Montgomery's truck. So apparently that crew has got just the right combination, not only with the chassis setting, but with the injectors and the turbos. It is just clean and mean.
It sure is, and he's not really, though, pulled out a whole lot of a lead on Jeff Salmon, who's just hung in there all afternoon. Led a little bit, then fell back, led a little bit more. Salmon is doing a really good job. I wonder, though, right now what his tactic is. He sure doesn't want to let Doyle Montgomery get too far out front.
No, he can't afford to let him do that, but Montgomery doesn't appear to want to do that. I think what we're going to see here, Brock, is some tremendous final laps a little later on. That's when both these guys are just going to pull out all the stops and not worry about tires or anything else but winning the lion's share of this purse.
Well, as we've seen happen, though, you really can't tell when one of these tires is going down on you, and suddenly when it happens, it's like a grenade going off. There's no lipping into the pits under speed. You just lose a tire, and all you try to do is keep it off the wall. Lead change, Steve.
It is Jeff Salmon taking the lead once again, and I got to wonder if Montgomery just didn't say, go ahead, you lead for a while, we'll just play tag here.
Well, it looked as if Montgomery just kind of got up high. Look at that smoke coming off that right front tire of Doyle Montgomery's. That's an example of the kind of loadings that you're getting on this high-bank Dover Speedway.
And when these tires do explode, they go off like a cannon shot. And my first thought was, well, they're going to turn right and go right into the wall. But they have a special blowout device on the steering that prevents that, Brock, something that is also being used now in over-the-road trucks. I saw a demonstration where they intentionally blew a tire and the driver didn't even have his hands on the wheel, and the truck went perfectly straight. What a development that has been for safety on the road and on the track.
It sure is, as we watch a pair of Kenworths go at it for third and fourth place. That's Charlie Baker up there in that wing Kenworth. Right behind him, Jimmy Paget. Jimmy Paget's truck, by the way, has got some interesting plumbing on board. Steve had a look.
The fuel tank on most of these race trucks is pretty simple, just a big aluminum tank to hold the diesel bolted between the frame rails. But on Jim Paget's number 21, there's a real plumber's nightmare with all kinds of contraptions here. And Rufus Yarborough, the engineer on the truck, is going to explain it to us, I hope. Rufus, what is all this stuff?
Okay, actually what this amounts to is a water injection system that goes into the intake manifold through the turbocharger. That reduces our temperature, exhaust temperature, which in turn makes a cooler engine, cooler running engine. Longer life, less wear, does a great job. It'll actually reduce the exhaust temperatures on the engine approximately 300 degrees.
So it's something that Jim will activate from the cab if he sees the exhaust temperature getting too high?
Yeah, he can watch his pyrometer, and he actually can push it. Actually, we'll have it set up on a dimmer switch, pushes with his left foot, and then he can reduce his temperature by 300 degrees.
So it's not really for horsepower, it's for cooling, but you're going to get more horsepower with a cool engine.
Sure, but less friction. That actually what happens is you put the water in on top of the piston, that reduces the size of the piston by reducing the heat. Sure. Less friction.
All right, thank you, Rufus.
Thank you very much.
Boy, a classic example of how racing improves the breed. We'll probably see that unit out on the road here pretty soon as Jimmy Paget rides that beautiful bronze Kenworth into fourth place here on the Dover Monster Mile. But up front, Steve, what a race.
Oh, this is just incredible. And here is Doyle Montgomery right on the tail. In fact, he's moving down to the inside. His favorite place to pass. He's again got to get around Mr. Solomon. Boy, are these two keeping the crowd entertained today.
They've just gone back and forth in first place, round and round. It seems as though one of them can't hold the lead for more than a lap before the other one just dives underneath and retakes that front spot. But right now, Jeff Salmon is trying to find a spot. He has to go high to get around one of the slower trucks, and Doyle Montgomery is holding on. but we've seen some guys get as much as 10 or 12 truck lengths out front, and it looks as if they're going to run away, and then all of a sudden they get reeled back in by that second-place truck. So by no means is Doyle Montgomery in command here.
Trouble in turn number 4, Brock. A shredded right front tire for Jimmy Paget. He is going to be out of any chance of winning this race. Look at this. That tire is absolutely destroyed. There'll be no recap in it. As number 21 comes in, I'm sure he'll try to take on a spare tire and wheel and get back out there, but his chances of winning it are nil. The yellow flag has been brought out for all of the rubber that's out on the racetrack, and that is going to set up an incredible duel between Jeff Sullivan and Doyle Montgomery in the final laps of the Big Rig 200. Stay with us.
Worried about running out in the final stages of this race after they go to green. So Jeff Salmon, who's been up front all day long, currently leads it. Right now, Bill Johnson down in 14th place. Remember, he led it in the early stages of this race. He's back in for more tires. Bill and his brother Randy have brought a pair of Corbett's to Dover. Steve had a look at one of them.
If you thought you knew every make and model of truck going down the highway, but you never heard of a Corbett, don't feel bad, because the last one came off the assembly line in 1946 in Henderson, North Carolina. There's 3 Corbett's in the Big Rig 200, and one of them belongs to Randy Johnson. First question, Randy, why a Corbett?
Well, we like the body design. It's more streamlined, and they're just good-looking trucks, and we're really proud of them.
Plus, they were made in your home state. That might have something to do with it.
Right. They were made in our home state, Henderson, North Carolina, which is about 100 miles from our home, and we love our state, and we like to back it up.
How much of the old Corbett is left, body, frame, whatever?
Okay, really the chassis, the cab, with the hood, we made the hood, but it's designed off a Corbett hood, so it's mostly Corbett.
What happens if you wreck a Corbett? I mean, you just don't find them on everybody's used truck lot.
No, parts are hard to find. We found a lot of parts in Henderson, but parts are hard to find. We've got parts from all over the country, but we have a few spare parts.
How much would you say is invested in this truck right now?
Oh, I would say probably close to $50,000 to $60,000.
Expensive racing machine.
It is. It really is,
Let's hope the old Corbett comes off the track today still in one piece, huh?
We hope so.
Well, it's so far so good for Randy Johnson. He currently has that old Corvette up in 4th place here at Dover, but it seems to be boiling down to a shootout between these two men, Jeff Salmon and Doyle Montgomery. There they are, sitting in there behind the pace car, kind of cruising around, waiting for the moment of decision when the green flag comes out. We've seen the two trucks just about equal in terms of performance. They've gone back and forth, exchanging the lead, and it's going to be a question of who's there on the last lap. Jeff Salmon showing all kinds of ploys, only 3 races in these big rigs, and he has done a fantastic job. Doyle Montgomery, a lot more of a veteran. So the tension is building. Let's go to Steve Evans in the pits with one of Jeff Salmon's crewmen.
Doyle is right on your guy's back. Your guy is a rookie. Doyle's got a lot of experience.
We're no rookie. We've been at it 4 years, I have.
Yeah, but your driver's, it's only his 3rd race. Can he take that kind of pressure now?
Yeah, he can take it.
What about Doyle? Do you think he's going to wait till that last couple of laps and slingshot him or try to do that?
He's going to try it.
He's going to get away with it?
No, he won't get away with it.
Okay, thanks.
So the stage is set at the Big Rig 200 here at Dover Downs, Delaware. The leader, Jeff Salmon and his GMC. Right behind him, the Flying Deuce Kenworth of Doyle Montgomery.
The emergency crews are back in their locations. The track is clean, and I believe we're going to get a green flag when they next cross the start-finish line. This has been such an incredibly competitive event. Here they come out of turn number 4, side by side. On the inside is Doyle Montgomery. On the outside is Jeff Salmon. The green flag is out. Who will lead it into turn number 1?
Well, it's going to be Doyle Montgomery, Steve, thanks to getting the draw on Jeff Salmon way back there on turn number 4. He anticipated the green flag, got the hammer down, out-accelerated Salmon, and took the lead. But look at this. Jeff Salmon isn't given an inch. In fact, if anybody's going to pass on the outside here at Dover, it's going to be Salmon right now.
It's all going to boil down to who has the best handling truck. You can see Doyle Montgomery's truck starting to rock and roll a little bit. There, you see it again. He has probably got some tire wear. You see smoke off of the tires. There's only 5 laps to go, and they are side by side. Now Montgomery takes the advantage. Salmon trying to go to the inside. Montgomery has run an incredibly smart race today. He used the last yellow flag to dash in for a little bit of diesel fuel. If their fuel consumption is equal, we know who has more diesel than the other guy, and that's Doyle.
But tactically, that could have been a mistake for Montgomery. He moved out outside to block Salmon, and in that way gave Salmon the low line. But it seems as if Montgomery just has more power. He gave Salmon the low line, and Salmon couldn't take advantage of it.
They are both pushing these trucks harder right now than they have for the entire 200 miles. You can tell that by the smoke off the tires starting to come off of all 10 tires now.
It could be that Salmon has lost a tire. He's slowing way down. Montgomery's just running away from him right now. It could have been that little sprint was too much for Jeff Salmon. That's a tough break. The kid drove beautifully all day long.
He sure did. They got to be happy with that youngster. Buckhorn, who owns that truck, you can bet he'll keep Jeff Salmon around for a while. There's your leader, and he's extending that lead. Doyle Montgomery, you know, if it's not tires, it might be fuel. Sullivan just could have gone dry in the tank. In fact, his crewman now saying, close it up, close it up. But he is falling further and further back.
Well, you got to know it's not for lack of wanting to. Jeff Salmon has run a beautiful race all day long. The old GMC just is getting tired for one reason or another, as this man, Doyle Montgomery, in the Flying Deuce, just hauls away. He is headed for victory unless something overtakes him, and we've seen a lot of surprises here, not the least of which is that right front tire. As the crewman, Doyle Montgomery, they are happy. They want a victory. They sense a victory.
Well, even in their joy, Brock, they've got to be concerned with the rubber on that truck. That could be the problem that could rob them of what is a victory in their pocket right now. With Solomon falling back, don't you think Doyle Montgomery should ease off right now, Brock?
I'm sure he's looking in that big rear view mirror of his and looking for Jeff, and he said, boy, oh boy, I don't see him back there. I'm just going to back it down and hope that old right front rubber stays with me, because once it goes down, it's goodbye. There's no way you can limp one of these rigs around with a blown right front tire. White flag.
One more mile to go on what they call the Monster Mile, and for very good reasons. It has taken its toll of every kind of race car that's ever attacked it, including some of the trucks today. But here is Doyle Montgomery. Only another couple of turns for this beautiful conventional truck. No better looking truck in the entire race. The crew handsomely decked out in matching uniforms. A class act all the way. Doyle has finished high in a number of races, but if he can just get through one more turn, it'll be his first big win in professional truck racing. Here he comes down to the finish line. The checkered flag for number 2, and Doyle Montgomery. The crew is delirious. They have made well over $7,000 here today.
Well, he did a beautiful job, and these guys prepared that truck flawlessly for Doyle Montgomery. They'll go home to Ohio with some money and some real satisfaction to win in a very tough racetrack like this. As for Jeff Salmon, a beautiful drive. Stayed with the leaders all day, led it for a while, and I'm sure thought he had victory in his pocket until troubles arose near the end. We'll find out, hopefully, what caused him to lose to this man, Doyle Montgomery, the Flying Deuce. Beautiful truck, a beautiful drive, Steve.
Doyle Montgomery is so happy, Brock. It looks to me like he's going to take a second victory lap. He could have come down or just stopped right there at victory line, but not so. He's going to go around again. The thumbs-up signal from the crew. The first big win for Doyle Montgomery. We'll be back to talk to Doyle and hopefully to the second-place finisher as well. Stay with us.
That's the Flying Deuce, Doyle Montgomery, who wins the Big Rig 200 here at Dover Downs. But before we talk to Doyle, let's go to Steve Evans with Jeff Salmon, who drove so well to take second place here.
To come so close in only your third race and have that tire go away.
I run out of fuel.
Is that what happened?
Yeah, run out of fuel. Started second there in the turns, and if I didn't let up on it, it would have cut completely off. I just couldn't do nothing.
But you still got to be thrilled with your truck and your performance just in your third race.
Pit crew and all done a big job. That truck's right.
Well, and they're awful pleased with their choice of drivers, too.
Thank you.
Well, our congratulations to Jeff Salmon for a terrific hard charge here at Dover. As Doyle Montgomery, surrounded by his jubilant crew, gets ready to climb out of that big Kenworth. Steve's there.
Out of the truck comes Doyle Montgomery, his first ever win here at Big Rig Truck Racing, and he is one tired man. Doyle, that takes a lot out of you, but you got to feel great. A big victory.
I do feel great. I just love it, and I appreciate all the fans being here. I thank you people for being here. I've just had a wonderful day, man.
But we talked about strategy earlier. Yours worked perfectly.
Well, I tried, and it did this time. It really did. And I kind of had it figured to go exactly like it went, but they don't do that every time. A hard bunch of guys to beat, man. It's competition. Don't ever let anybody tell you it's not.
Well, Jeff Salmon ran out of fuel. He was giving you quite a race till then.
Was it? Is that what happened to him?
Yeah.
Well, I didn't know what happened to him, but I believe in another 2 laps he'd have lost his right front tire anyway. So, but Jeff is a man. He's one competitor. He hadn't been driving but since last year, and he's tough to beat, I'll tell you.
Congratulations again to you and a super crew you've got.
Thank you. Thank you.
Well, what a show we've seen at Dover Downs. A couple of 100 tons of flying iron around here all afternoon on the Monster Mile. Not one serious crash. A beautiful effort by both the drivers and the crews. Our congratulations to them all. For Ed Bruce and Steve Evans, I'm Brock Yates. Thanks for joining us at Dover Downs.
The executive producer of Super Sports America is Harvey M. Pallage. Produced and directed by John B. Mullen. Super Sports America, sports action at its finest. Join us next week for another edition of Super Sports America, capturing the power, color, and action of uniquely American sports and the skill and the courage of the competitors. Super Sports America is a presentation of Diamond P Sports and is distributed by Gaylord Syndicom.